To understand the needs and motivations in any given category, whether it is buying your toilet paper, your car, or your next private jet, our mind's logic needs to be understood as a structural framework and how we weigh up within that to come to our final decisions. That's why at mext we use the world's most modern full psychology theory to understand this weighing up process, because 95% of our mind's workings are unconscious. That means we don't even know it's going on, but that is what actually gets us to our decisions, whereas afterwards we post-rationalize those. Think about it as an iceberg. You got 5% on top, above the surface, 95% below. It's not the wind that drives those 5% and moves the iceberg. It's the currents that are hitting the 95%. And that is exactly what we need to understand, and we will show you how to. So thinking about any category decision, it's like a map popping up in your mind. And a map always has a north and a south and the other two endpoints. Let's have a look first at the west of our map. That is our regressive tendency, where we want to hold on to things, making them our own, feel comfortable and cozy. When we ask people in our workshops, what kind of food would you choose if you feel a bit grubby, a flu is coming on and it's cold and rainy outside? The answer everywhere in the world is the same. What would be yours? Chicken soup. Always comes up. Absolutely no change in that ever. So we've got already one of our endpoints here. However, the opposite side of weighing up is about experimenting, transformation, developing ourselves, experiencing the new. When we ask in Asia, typically French food comes up, something like snails. However, if we ask Westerners, typically something like fried spiders in Cambodia come up. They're in fact tarantulas, but I only have a redback spider here. If you live in Australia, you don't just pick up your firewood or your bike. You first check if there's a redback spider underneath, because it's got a pretty nasty bite. So let's see where this one is going now. That gives us already the two endpoints on our eastern and western part of the map. Then we look at the north and the south. When we look at the north of it, it is about the Freudian id, which is always power, pleasure, procreation. Therefore, if we ask people, what food would you choose if you're in that kind of state of mind, have that motivation, that need? It's always chocolate, naturally. There's your chocolate cake. So the northern end, the Freudian id, is about the non-reflective, whereas our southern end is about the reflective and the considerate. So when I think about, I haven't eaten well for a few days, I'm putting on a little bit too much weight, or I might go to a business lunch and I don't want to be seen like a gutso who is just sucking up any sugary or fatty type of stuff, I choose those. So it's about consideration. Freud called it the is. So now we have our four endpoints on the map. We've got the chicken soup for our regressive tendency. We have the transformational spider eating. We have the instinctive pleasure, power-seeking chocolate cake. And we have the reflective and considerate carrot sticks or the salad, which is the Freudian is. It is always within that map that we make up our mind. One of the simple mix forms is, of course, adding ingredients. If we just add some humble chili to our chicken soup, it transforms the meal and moves it already into this direction. So typically, we don't actually just have the extreme endpoints, we mediate between those and find our most comfortable ones. That can be within one meal, but it can also be within a dish. Very often we have our meat, 3 veg with a nice sauce with it. The meat and 3 veg sits more at the southern tip, whereas of course the gravy or the sauce sits more towards the northern tip. So we're already mixing those needs and motivations, and we're creating a new value. When we therefore look at value creation, it is also important to remember that a value proposition actually is not singular. A value proposition is typically composed of fulfilling a number of different needs that we can combine together. Think of it as a value burger. We have the meat patty and we have the buns, but that's only the rudimentary things, and it certainly doesn't make a tasty burger or even a Big Mac. We need the pickles in there, we need the tomato sauce, we need the cheese in there to start to create those value layers. And when we want to look at it as branded experiences and branded choices, we need something like the magic sauce in there. That is what gives you the Big Mac, and that is also what gets you the premium value and a superior pricing proposition for your consumers and your customers and supporters. So therefore, when we look at understanding needs and motivations in any given category, we need to look at the map that gives us the regressive tendencies, the transformative, the considerate, and the instinctive. And within that framework, we need to determine all the specific needs to then explain how we come to our decisions and how we can influence that path.